Welcome everybody to Monday Domains. I'm still inviting some folks in, so we'll get started here in 3 or 4 minutes. If you had any questions you came with today, go ahead and request to be a speaker, and I'll try to get to them right off the bat. Today should be more of a social show, and I am recording. I do have replays on, and that means that that you are being recorded if you come up, potentially if someone clicks the replay button when we're done. Anyway, thanks for coming into Monday Domains. Let me let my battery charge a little bit, and I think we got some good things to talk about today. Biggest pain points, and then I want to go over today's GoDaddy auction names, and should be fun. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you, Paige?
I feel really good. I feel like I had a little bit of a weekend, which I haven't always had, so I'm kind of got some energy, some Monday energy.
Well, this is good. We all need your brain power. I just wanted to see if you knew about, all these. Have you seen all the Snap names that have just suddenly popped in? It's like this
Yes.
treasure trove, and some of them have, reserves on them. Some of them don't. Where did all these come from? Why these aren't all drops? Where did these
Right.
suddenly come from?
So yeah, I'm intimately aware. Yes, so this is a portfolio. Snap Names you've always been able to sell your names as a third party on Snap Names for the last 15 years. And you've also been able to do it on NameJet. And now that NameJet and Snap Names are essentially the same company, anything that you could do on NameJet goes on Snap Names, and anything that you do on Snap Names goes on NameJet. So we'll call it Snapjet. Um, but because of that, there is a company who, at the board level, has decided to divest a large group of domain names. And as we've talked about here on Monday Domains, there's very few options for people on how to sell domain names. There's no window at the casino where you just go and you show them your chips and they cash you out, right? Um, and we don't have a lot of good ways to do it. All we have is put them up for sale at Afternic and slowly wait for offers over the next 15 years. Or some places that say, well, if you want to get more than zero, we'll get you that. You know what I mean? Um, and so I think what they chose was this route with two longtime, vendors, Snap Names and NameJet, to simply put all 800 names up in a series of 3-day auctions. Um, and because NameJet and Snap Names are married to their platform, which is built to sell expired names, even when a third party seller comes in, they have to cram them into the hole of something that looks like it's an expired name, like you shared. You know what I mean? Because that's the place that people are searching for those nuggets that someone has left. There was a great name and the company went under and now it's going up for sale. And if they just listed these names as a private auction, they may not get the traction they want. So they fed them into the expired names stream so that everybody would put their pre-bids on them. You know how you put a pre-bid? And then it starts a public auction. And those public auctions, I think, start ending tonight, tomorrow, or today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday.
It was just such a big dump, and lots of really premium ones in there too. To kind of throw them all into the market at the same time, I almost kind of feel like it's going to dilute things a little bit. Maybe not. There's just so many buyers out there for ultra premium ones, especially the one words. But is this owned by multiple individuals or?
No, I think it's out there publicly, so I don't think I'm disclosing anything. It's a company called Thought Convergence, and they were the actual corporate entity that used to own Domain Tools. A lot of you use Domain Tools for your Whois
Sure.
lookups. And Domain Tools at one time was a holding company, I believe. I don't think I'm talking out of school here. I think it's pretty publicly available. That had various um, domain. They had a parking company, I think, and some other companies. I'm not sure how the shared ownership worked, but anyway, I think they've gotten to a point where Domain Tools, I think, I'm just hypothesizing, I think that got rolled up as part of kind of a web security company So you were maybe left with a bunch of domain names without a real operating company. I'm just guessing here, you know what I mean? And then someone said, "What's the best thing to do? Should we just keep waiting for offers, or let's do a one-time sale?" Now I am going to start guessing. In my mind, again, there's no good places to do it. And when you do decide potentially that you want to get out of these names by the end of the year, just say that was their decision. Then you might also say, oh my gosh, we can't do it too close to Christmas because everyone's going to go away at Christmas. So then you go to Snap Names and you say, how can we get our auctions done by the second week of December? No, that's too late. People will already be on holiday. Okay, let's make sure we do them the first week of December. How do we do that? Well, you got to have them be set up for pre bidding last week, to have the auctions close this week. And if I'm saying that too fast, it's because again, they're cramming, they're trying to make a sales platform and an auction house out of something that was built to sell expired names, which is a mindless, there is no seller. The names come through the domain registriar. There's 30,000 names a month expiring. We'll let buyers determine what they want to buy. They put in bids. That starts an auction. And, it was built to almost crowd select from those 30,000 expired names each month what would go to auction. And then once it went to auction, you had the top 100 domain investors in the world, or the top 300, say, bidding on them. So if I was the seller here and you said, listen, we just want to get a market price, the fact that they're on NameJet and Snap Names, people are going to see them. When they look at auctions ending today or tomorrow, they're going to see the best names. Nothing's going to fly under the radar, so to speak. But as a bidder, yes, they crammed them into 3 days. So you're going to have to, what I would encourage everyone to do, if you're listening to this, Mark asked about the Snap Names NameJet auctions this week. It's a good time to examine the bidding limits on NameJet, the bidding limits on Snap Names. Are you qualified to bid a certain amount on an individual auction? Over 5,000, over 10,000, over 25,000. Secondly, I don't know if either one of the houses has a cumulative bid limit where you may have bid and won something at 1,000 and then 3,000, then 8,000. You don't want to find out that there's some type of cumulative limit at the time that you're really bidding on the name you really wanted. You know what I mean, Mark? So I think it's a great
Yeah.
time to check those limits.
Yeah, definitely check the limits. I can't remember the last Snap Names I participated in, but it was, upper four figures. But I can't remember the qualifications. And I'm almost kind of curious, like, I guess this is just a quicker way to kind of, like you said, probably end of year liquidate a portfolio. But wouldn't this maybe seem like better to call the guys at Right at the Dot and do a big dump there? They'd get a better. I mean, I think some of these names are better than the ones that they've had in some of their recent auctions. Or is it just maybe the commission's too heavy, and Snap Names wants to keep it, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I would not say, as much as I love Monty, I mean, he and I are joined at the hip with our big sale, that, Right at the Dot, I don't know if they've exactly top ticked a lot of names lately. So again, we don't have good options. The second best option would be just to pick a broker. Um, if I think about it from a seller's point of view, see if Andrew Rosner would put the top 30 names on his newsletter one week and then say, we have more names. But then does he really want to deal with the names that are going to sell for 100 or 300 or $500? He would certainly deal with the one words, you know what I mean? So again, Mark, I think what you're seeing is the buyer benefits here because of the seller's needs and the lack of an alternative. Um,
Well, we'll see. We'll see what it comes down to, because the thing I'm curious about more than anything is, what is this quote unquote low reserve? Some have no reserve, which that's fine. That's great. And they're obviously, I can see why they wouldn't have a reserve. But then some of the one word premiums, they have a reserve, and it's just going to be, okay, where is that threshold? Is it really a low reserve, or are they just trying to, protect themselves and get as ultra high a premium as they can on it? I don't know.
Right, Mark. So, as your advisor, everybody leaning close, and I'll tell you what I really think, which is what you get here on Monday Domains. I think you're going to find the reserves are very reasonable, and the reason I say that is there are people that have been trying to sell names on NameJet through the third party auctions for years, and they put up the same names over and over. I did this with a group of 500 names. I put up the same names every month with my quote wishful reserves. You know what I mean? Where I would be happy if the name sold with just one bid. Now, a buyer doesn't think that's a reserve, right? A reserve is there just to say, hey, if you have a word like, I don't know if it's integrate.com or infusion.com, there's a couple ones, I hate to say it, that just, I know they begin with an I and they're dictionary words. You're, yeah, you're not really ready to risk that on a $69 no reserve, right? I mean, what if the system's down? What if there's something else going on in the world that day? You're not really going to risk intimate.com with a $69 reserve. But I would say from the fact that they are auctioning these names quickly with only a week's notice before bidders were needed to pre-bid, because this stuff just hit a little over a week ago. Um, that I would not expect that to be paired with a wishful thinking reserve. You see what I mean, Mark? If everything else they're doing looks like it's to actually get out of these names, where they would like to not own any of these names by the end of the year. That's my intuition. I haven't seen that anywhere. I would not expect the reserves to be, I would be ready and I would be budgeting for how much do you want to spend if you're going to be able to get names. But as you say, there's a lot of buyers out there who, here's the hard part. What if the names you really like and you really think you want to outbid others are on the third day? What do you do on the first 2 days? Do you bid high, or you're like, well, I don't want to bid high because I don't know how much I'm going to have to stretch for the names I want, if you have a budget. Now, if you don't have a budget, then I think you're in great shape. But what I would tell people that are listening on Monday Domains, and Mark asked a question about the big group of names at Snap Names or NameJet, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about them this week. And the reason I spent a lot of time thinking about them is I was very happy with the name that I got in the last Right of the Dot auction. Um, I did get anteaters.com and I got it for under $1,000. And the process I went through was to get the list early, run my data early, look at the entire list early, decide what I wanted and what I really wanted, then look at the auction order and be ready to bid accordingly, knowing that the stuff I really wanted may come early or late. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to end up not getting what you really want and getting some just okay names. And then you look back on it and you go, I should have bid more. You know what I mean? Right, Mark, where you say,
Yeah, the
I
prep
would
is
have bid
all
more.
about it's
I should have
all
bid
about the
more.
prep.
But there was something in my mind, in my process, that made me think the right thing to do was not bid 12,000 for that name, but man, I should have, right? So I think you have to try to find out what those things are so you don't regret.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, appreciate it. That's great info page. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think what that means is don't wait until a name you pre-bid along with 130 others at $69, and your greed might be telling you maybe I can get it for 1,000. Maybe I can get it for 500. Man, that would be awesome. This is going to be great. But what I would say is be more realistic. Ask yourself, am I in at 10,000? Am I in at 20,000? Am I in at 30,000? And make that decision today at a calm moment, at a balanced moment. Because otherwise, you're subject to, when the bidding starts, thinking that you've placed 8 or 9 bids, but the name's only at 4,500. but you still think, oh, I'm going back and forth with this person, I'm never going to win it, and you get out. Unless I believe you go in with an idea of your maximum, I think you're going to be potentially setting yourself up to be waiting to see what other people are doing to decide whether you want a name. And I think the best time to decide if you want a name is now before the auction started. And then when the bidding starts and the bidding goes up, you know if you're in. You know if you're that person at the auction who, even if you have to wait for going once, going twice, you're putting your paddle up before it's sold every time. And you know how long you're going to do that, you know? But if you're trying to make up your mind every time in those 5 minutes, well, it was 6,500. I don't know if I want to go 6,800. No, I got some other ones I want to bid on. And then you don't bid. I would rather, if it were me, know that I've got a $40,000 budget, know that I've got a $3,000 budget. And if you have a low budget, like 2 or 3,000, ask yourself, what are some of the names that may not look to other people like they're valuable, but I think I can get them for a low price? And maybe concentrate on those. But my number one suggestion for those of you bidding on the names this week and the Snap Names Name Jet is I do think it's a buyer's benefit auction. I do think because we don't have a lot of ways to liquidate domain names for someone in this position, that they've crammed a auction into a short period of time, which means they're going to get the normal suspects. The normal bidders on domain names that bid every day and every week are going to be there. But they have not cast a wide net. So, in most of the names, you're going to be competing with people who have a choice to buy any name in the domain name spectrum. In my opinion, you're not going to be competing against people that may have specific knowledge of the name you're going to, that a company spent 2 or 3 months reaching out to those people and saying this name, even though it's been available for 10 years, now it's available and we really want to sell it. So you've got an opportunity. Now, you can be myopic and you can talk yourself into names, where you like them more than everyone else. But I do think if it's an area you know well, I think you're going to be able to outbid other domain investors potentially. Because again, once a name becomes not an awesome deal for them, they may move on to another name. But you knew that you could develop in that area. Like I'm bidding on some names that have estate and then luxury real estate. So like Alabama luxury real estate. I'll just tell you my world this week. So I think that's a name that if a domain investor who's used to spending 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 looked at it, and it was the only name on NameJet that day, they might bid 69, they might bid 150, or some of you may not even think it's worth 69 bucks, and that's fine. But for me, when it's in the middle of an auction of 800 names, it's easy to skip over. It's long. It's not Alabama real estate, which people would want. It's got luxury after it. So they're going to skip it. So I see that as an opportunity because I do like the name for me to be able to buy it. And it's going to make sense that there's no competition. Sometimes there's no competition because the name stinks. In this case, I think it's hard to pick out of an 800 name auction the 500 to 600th best name when you have all these big names going on around them. So anyway, that's some of the stuff I'm doing, Mark. Um, like you say, Mark, you were surprised to see this many good names coming out of this process, but I do think it's a buyer's benefit auction, and you should be able to put some money to work. I would just be saying, be realistic about would you pay 5, 10, 20, 25, 30, and think about that beforehand. Does that help at all?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I'm applying the same stuff whether I'm looking at a GoDaddy auction too. It's just suddenly, oh, okay, I've got a much bigger pile of possibilities than usual on a daily basis because it's, like I said, it's 3 day auction basically.
Yeah, and I would say, especially if you're trying to do your real job and the auction, it's going to be difficult. The names are going to close over a 2 hour period. Again, if I was by my computer, I could look it up whether it starts tomorrow. So usually the bidding deadline was Friday night for the first group. So the auction would have started Saturday. So that'd be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I'll just share with you some more details. I've been a seller on NameJet for a long time. It's really tough to submit your names to NameJet because if you, in this case, I think they did the right thing. They want their auctions to end on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They didn't want to do Monday because a lot of people are still just getting to their real jobs on Monday at 2 o'clock. So they might not be there. They didn't want to do Friday because some people are off on vacation, especially in December. So I think they compressed it, Mark, into 1 week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then what was unique about it is because they were using the same system as expired names, you had to put in your pre bids on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's kind of awkward, but I think that they were pretty sure that they were going to have some people who might put in a pre bid on every name in the auction, you know? So if you have a choice as a NameJet seller, I think you can learn something from this, which is some people might say, I want my pre bids. I know this is really in the weeds, but if you've ever done auction selling on NameJet, you should be able to follow this. Some people would say, well, I want to take my pre bids in during the week when most people are domaining, even if that means my auction ends on the weekend. Hey, maybe there's some buyers that bid more on the weekend. But I think what they've done here is they've said, we want our auctions to end on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But what I wanted to get to, Mark, is what's going to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I've been in this situation before, is you're going to start out with an auction order that has certain names ending first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. But once the extended bidding starts, you're going to have a real combination of at 3 o'clock tomorrow, my time central, I'm going to have names that were ending at 2:30 that are still in an extended auction. And I'm going to have names that are ending at 3 o'clock be closing for the first time. And it's really going to mess with your idea of what the order is going to be because you're going to have extended auction names that could take 45 minutes. And if you thought, well, once this name gets over, then I'll look at the next name in order, I think that you're going to get thrown for a loop. So I think it's really going to be important to focus on what you really want and keep a laser eye on that because the order is going to change, as the day goes. If it were me bidding, I might have my Snap Names account open and my NameJet account open in case you do run into a bidding limit on one of them that you're ready on the other one. And you might find that one of them is better at keeping track of what's closing soon, what has so many minutes to count down. So those are my tips for bidding on the NameJet Snap Names auctions.
Great tip.
Yeah, love it. Hey, David, how are you? Welcome to Monday Domains. Great to see you.
I'm well. I'm sorry I missed the beginning part. So there's like you're saying 30,000 names being released that are really good on Snap Names and NameJet?
No, 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 no. There's about 850 that were released for pre-bidding the last 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I
Okay.
believe that they've all become public auctions. And what I mean is that normally on an expired name, you have to have placed a pre-bid to be in the auction. But I think these, because they're third parties, either so many people placed pre bids on almost every name that they've all become public auctions. But I need to check that. When I was comparing it to 30,000, David, what I meant was normally the NameJet Snap Names platform is built to, without any human touch whatsoever, have 30,000 names a month expire at the Snap Names registrars and the NameJet registrars. And automatically people place their pre bid, and automatically the names are auctioned, and automatically the money's collected, and automatically the names are provisioned. So it's set up to be that type of business that runs itself. And in this case, they've taken even though I've been able to sell names on NameJet for the last couple of years, so has everybody. Now they've taken and made kind of a special auction, but they've crammed it into this 2 week period where they only gave people a look at the names last Monday morning, I think. and then the auctions are already ending. So I was comparing that to the fact that the system's built to let the customers select out of the 30,000 expired what's worth 69, and then let all the people who bid 69 decide how high it goes. But that's a long way from being really good at helping someone specifically sell a portfolio. So that's why I mentioned the 30,000.
Got it. All right. I'll take a look, see if there's any good ones on public auction.
Oh, there's no good ones. I've already taken care of that, and if I haven't, then Mark has. So we'll let you know if you missed anything.
All right.
Ha ha ha. But let's see. Let's talk about some specific names. So one of the things I do in my domain showroom, for those of you that come over and join me on that, is sometimes I'll just look at what's going on at GoDaddy. GoDaddy auctions. GoDaddy auctions start at 10 Central. So they started a half hour ago, and I was supposed to be doing this when we started. So hopefully I haven't missed anything that I really wanted from talking about the aftermarket names. So I'm going to stall here as I preload my GoDaddy. And what I do, the way I do GoDaddy auctions, just to give you a little peek about how I buy names for myself, how I buy names for Domain Outlet, is I do my searching usually 10 days in advance. And actually, I do it 8 days in advance. And the reason I do it 8 days in advance is if I do it 10 days in advance, I'm going to get all the GoDaddy names. But not all the partners, um, not all the partners have their names in soon enough where if I did it every 10 days, I might, and then I didn't do another search till 10 days from now, there might be a gap there on maybe the Two Cows names or the name.com names or some of the registrars. So what I found was I was missing some names when I did it every 10 days, even though I for sure was getting all the GoDaddy names, that I was missing some of the others. So what I do is I search through various ways for the GoDaddy names about 8 days in advance. And my sole purpose of my initial scans is to simply determine, does it deserve a place on my watch list? And for those of you that are domain investors and you're listening today on Monday Domains by Domain Club, what I'm just trying to decide in my first scan is, does it deserve a spot on my watch list? I'm not trying to decide if I would really buy it for $12 minimum bid. I'm not trying to decide how high I would go. I'm simply trying to separate over an 8-day period, if there's 200,000 names, what is worth, what is not junk, what has some aspect that I either want to be interested in or I might want to research later. So all I'm doing is selecting names and adding them to my watch list at GoDaddy. And the reason I think it's so important and the reason I bought so many names at GoDaddy over the years is because they had this watch list. Because on other auction platforms, I don't always want to send a signal to anyone else that there's at least one person interested in that name. But at the same point, I want to keep track, if I search on multiple days, of what names I'm interested in that day. So I can wake up Monday morning and I can simply look at what I've researched before in a balanced, clear frame of mind to separate out and say, this is worthy of consideration. And if the only way to do that on some of the other platforms is to place a bid, then I've combined the fact that I want to see what I'm interested in that day with giving some indication of a bid to other people. So what I used to do is I used to keep my own watch list on a notepad, and I would have, for instance, the namejet names I was interested in, where the pre-bid deadline was tonight at 10 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. when I was on the West Coast. And I wouldn't want to place a pre-bid because there's a lot of people who might not look at the whole list of 30,000 names. they may just search for what have other people bid on, and then they'll jump in as a second bid, and maybe they wouldn't have known about this name if I didn't place an early pre-bid. So whether it worked or not, at least in my mind, especially in the times when the market's been weaker, there haven't been as many active participants, I would wait and place my bids 5 to 10 minutes before the deadline and only then indicate to others. But to do that, I had to make my own watch list on a notepad in a Google Doc. So what GoDaddy's nice is it lets me watch a name without bidding on a name. So that's been the primary reason since 2011, I think, I've been bidding on GoDaddy auctions. And, obviously there's a lot more bidders now than there used to be, but that's why I like it, is because I can pick names, add them to my watch list, and then only come in now today at 10 a.m. and look at what have I put on my watch list today. And now's when I'm deciding, do I want that name for the minimum bid? How much do I think I want to buy it? How many other people have pre-bid on it? Overall, if I have a rough budget for the day, is today a heavy day, a slow day? It lets me look and see if there's any auctions ending during a time that I may be doing other things, like having Monday domains on Clubhouse. So on Mondays, I'm going to especially be sensitive to anything ending between 10 and 11 Central, because I know, even though I'd like to think that I could do this show and watch the names at the same time, I could get carried away on a topic like I was with Mark, and I could easily miss it if I just relied on myself remembering. So unless I've set an alarm, and I do that a lot now, to make sure I don't forget to bid on that name or watch and see if I've been outbid, then I want to get an idea on the whole day before it starts. Do auctions conflict? Are there names that have already got to $500 and $1,000? So I know that I'm not going to be, quote, stealing them. I'm going to have to really decide how high I want to go. And that's what I would be doing from 9 to 10 in the morning. So if it got to be 10 o'clock, I would then go through and I would take a second look at my watch list, and I would get rid of anything that I kind of liked, but now that it's the actual day of the auction, I don't really like it. So one of the words I had on my watch list, let's see, what's one of them? Premiership.net. So there's a second tier of English soccer that's called the Premiership. I thought, oh, that's a pretty recognizable word, Premiership. It could have other meanings. Maybe I put it on my watch list. But in the morning, I'm going to clean that out of my watch list because I don't even want to have to think about it. Even though I might like it for $11, what if I get outbid? I don't want to sit there at the end of the day and know that that's the only name I won. So I'm probably going to get rid of that and about four others. Some names, like there's a name today, healthwealth.com, health wealth, but it has a dash, a hyphen in between it. So it's health-wealth.com. And I liked it. I liked it at 12, but it's already at 565. And because I'm not a SEO person, as David might be, I'm not going to take the extra step to go see if it has backlinks, if there's some other reasons besides just the look of it, healthwealth.com, that I should buy that name. Once it gets to 565 and I know I'm out, I'm just going to get rid of it and put it off the list today. There's another name today, Harbinger Capital, and I'm going to talk about that when we talk about today's list, because it's the type of name that if you look up on a business list, there's probably a lot of companies named Harbinger Capital, a harbinger of things to come. It shows that you're looking out for the future. Maybe you're a Black Swan event company. And I'm guessing there's a lot of companies with that name. So when you're buying it, are you really cyber squatting against maybe the biggest company called Harbinger Capital? Or are you saying, no, there's a lot of companies that could want this name. I'm a professional domain investor. I'm going to buy this name. I know there's a lot of prospects. I'm going to wait for one of them to contact me, and I'm going to try to get the best price. I think it's a fine line between is that I'm not saying it's cyber squatting, but I'm saying your intent is to make money off simply the fact that another company wants their name. So we'll talk about that. But what I want to talk about it now is it's at $750. So for me, it's gone outside my bounds. So I'm going to delete that name. And the reason I do that is when I'm done paring down this list, I'm going to print it off. Old school, printer, ink, paper, and I'm going to set it on my desk, and I'm going to be able to highlight names or put a circle or put a question mark if I have to research it. And I need something visual to give me a read of the whole next 5 hours, because I can't, like I did maybe last year, simply watch GoDaddy auctions for 5 straight hours. Try to watch every bid, watch every name. Is there any name that's going for below it should? And if it is, I need to bid on it. I need to get it. If there's a name that's going to buy it now, when you used to be able to bid $12, and then at $11 it was buy it now, I had to be there right away to snag it at $11. But now I'm trying to do other things. I'm trying to sell names. I'm trying to organize names. I'm trying to enjoy my life, maybe. I'm doing shows on Clubhouse. Um, I need to look at the whole day, so I print it out. So, anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. I'll share with you what I'm bidding on. Midlam, Midlam, is at $82. And again, I'm sorry if you're bidding on that name and you don't want me to mention it, but I think those days are over. There's a lot of people out there. So we do have a lot of companies called Midlam. And we have Midlam Miniatures. We have Midlam. It is a last name. Um, it's got a family crest. I'm going to go to LinkedIn and I'm going to
Midland is a
type in.
city in
What's that?
Canada. It's a city in Canada. It's a famous place from like a couple hundred years ago when there was Iroquois living there, and
When there
it's
was
like
who living there?
Iroquois Indians.
Oh, okay. I thought you said bear claws. I was getting hungry.
Now they killed some priests and stuff like that who became saints. So people make pilgrimages every year there. And there's a big trucking company called Midland. So they'd love that Midland.com domain.
Midlam.
Oh, sorry, LAND.
Yeah. So I just wanted, I know I didn't say it right, but I wanted to. So this is Midlam. So I'm going to look on LinkedIn and I'm going to see 112 people with the last name. But LinkedIn can be tricky, because if I go to the 10th page of results, I still am seeing people. Sometimes LinkedIn can give you search results of the word that you put in. If it's in the description or the company name, it'll show that person as a result. So if you just look at the results for the people of the word you put in, it can sometimes give you an overinflated number unless you actually look through the pages. And I wish I could see more than 10 people on one page. Maybe I should pay for that dumb pro thing. But anyway, so this is a name, Midlam.com. I liked it because it's 6 letters. I liked it because it was a last name. I liked it because there's some company names. If it was 2 years ago, I probably would have got it at $11 as a buy it now. But now it's up to, it went from 60 to 80. I bid 102 when we started talking, and now it's at 335. So, this is why it's so hard, in my opinion, to think about, do you want a name? Because when a name's at 30, do you want it? I believe is completely dependent on price. There's no doubt that there's good names and bad names, but I believe the key factor is, are there names at good prices or names at bad prices? So in this case, I think Midlam's a good name, but I don't think it's such a good name that I should be willing to pay any price for it. And I think right now at $335, I'm going to let it go. I think that that's probably, someone has probably challenged Huge Domains to an upper limit of what they're willing to bid. Maybe they know how to tell what Huge Domains proxy is. Some people say they do. And they've bidded it like that, bidded. They've bid the name up to 335, And I just wonder, I'd be interested if anyone else has any thoughts on this, you conspiracy theorist. I wonder if they are able to figure out that that is a bid where the proxy by hypothetically the biggest owner of names in our market is they've taken them up close to it, and now they're kind of deciding in the next 3 minutes if they want to go higher, or did they just randomly bid 330? They got outbid by a proxy at 335, and that's where it is. But for me, I'm going to take one last look. Midlam.com. And again, I'm not going into some of the work that an SEO person would do. I'm just doing it for me based upon the sound of the name. It's only taken in 3 other extensions, so I don't think it's the type of name where you may have a Swedish company, a German company, a Canadian company, an Australian company, a UK company, where you could really say that you had 7 or 8 prospects. I think your prospects here are going to come from people that have Midlam, if that's how you say it, MIDLAM, and then another word. And I'm looking at my stats for that, and let's see, number of domain names with this in it. I kind of forgot what that title was. What I had done is I had downloaded all the stats for these names. Anyway, I'm going to let it go because I'm doing the domain show today. But if not, I may have given it some further look. But what's most important for me is my system worked. I knew I liked it at 12. I watched it. I bid one time. I bid up to the level that I would gladly pay. So I'm going to spend a second on that. Huge Domains is a major player in GoDaddy auctions. And I think if our tendency is to think that they're going to bid on all the names, so we shouldn't bid, I think that's wrong. I think that they've got metrics that tell them, what they should bid on each name. And we should all have those, but they do. And because of that, they're going to bid on almost every name, and they're going to bid up to the maximum price that fits their algorithm, in my opinion. I don't know this for sure. And they're going to basically take every name that they don't have to pay their maximum price on and treat that as a win. And that gives them really more money to bid on other names and go above their maximum. And if we, as competitive domain investors, simply make the assumption that they're going to eventually win a name and don't bid, then I think we're giving them a gift. I think we should bid. Now you say, yeah, Paige, but what if I start bidding and I bid to a level that I really didn't want to bid, but I just wanted to hurt Huge Domains? I would say don't bid that. But I would say bid on a price that you would not just want the name at, because I think there's hundreds of names each day that we want and that we pay a price for, but I don't know if we want to buy hundreds of names. So I try to say, what is a name that I would be absolutely happy, overjoyed to get Midlam for? And if I think I'd be happy to get it for $102, I've got to bid that 102 as a participant in the market to make sure that someone else gets it for higher. Again, I'm not saying drive auctions up. I'm saying if you don't at least bid the price that you would be totally happy to get the name at, I think you're hurting the entire market. And you're stopping yourself from getting some sweet wins where it isn't just, I got that name and it's going to go in the inventory, but you're like, no, I'm really happy to get that name. And I think we need some of those for the times that we do chase names. So I would just encourage everyone that if you want to know how we can beat Huge Domains, we have to move their algorithm. And the only way to move their algorithm is to make them pay as much, at least more than another domainer would pay for every name. And if we get out of auctions and don't even participate because we think we're not going to win, I would tell you at least bid which you'd happily want the name for. And so that's what I've been trying to do. So I look at a name like Shared Solution. That's the next name I have coming up in 15 minutes. And I'd be interested if you guys want to start joining me on stage here. I want to go through about 5 or 10 names and see some others' thoughts on them. Again, if someone's bidding on this name and you didn't want it mentioned, there's not much I can do. I'm sorry. But I think that between all the pitch letters and all the tip sheets that are out there, I've only pulled names from the list of GoDaddy appraisals over 2000. And I think that I don't want to compete with those people who do look deep at the list. And I think most of Alvin and Domain Smoke and Domain Chain, any name that has a value over a certain amount, they're going to put on their list because they want to get the affiliate clicks and the affiliate links. So I don't think anything above a $2,000 GoDaddy appraisal is ever going to fly under the radar. So I am limiting it to that. I'm not going hugely deep to compete against those of you that do look really deep on the list. So anyway, I wanted to just say that if you're concerned about that. So now I'm thinking about Shared Solution. It's a 2-word English name, Shared Solution, and it's got a little alliteration with the 2 S's, and it is positive in that I want to come up with one that benefits everybody. So I'm trying to decide, Valid, whether to bid on sharedsolution.com at $12, or if no one bids on it, I could do a buy it now at 50 if I act real quick. What do you think about sharedsolutionsingular.com?
I don't like it. I wouldn't buy it.
Gotcha. Just not attractive enough? Doesn't look pretty in the window?
Well, I've got Solutions domain name. I got the plural version, and I get a lot of traffic from the singular version, including email traffic. It's just
Yeah.
The plural is what people expect for the word solutions.
I think that's a great point. And that's probably why it has a $2,300 GoDaddy appraisal, because obviously it doesn't know about plurals and singulars. It just sees 2 English words that are both, if GoDaddy's computer looks at all the words with shared, at all the words with solution, including those with solutions, it's saying that those are 2 good words. So the combination would be good. And so it makes sense that it's got a high valuation, but it may not be a winner. Thanks, David. I've only got 66,000 results in Google for the name in quotes, and that's not a ton. That doesn't make it a phrase that, like, if I could find that this was a phrase that the climate change community has been using for 10 years, you know what I mean? What we need to fix climate change is a shared solution, and that word would have caught on. I would be more likely to take a run at it.
So in this case, I'd go to opencorporates.com and type in the corporate name, open shared solution, and see how many matches you get. And if you get more than one, there's an opportunity there.
How about Midlam? Do you mind looking that one up?
Sure.
MIDLAM.
MIDLAM.
Yep.
There are a few. Kevin Midlam Inc. in San Diego, Midlam Agencies in Delhi, Midlam Builders in North Carolina, inactive. Midland Moeller Enterprises in Ohio, Midland Builders Group in North Carolina. So there's a few. 13 companies total, but half of them are inactive. More than half are inactive.
Well, someone's knocking it up $5 every 5 minutes, which to me means they're probably doing the same thing I'm doing, which is looking at more detailed work to try to come up with a reason to buy or a reason to leave. And it looks like this bidder two's proxy is still in there. You know what I mean? And so now we're at 3 minutes left. Let's see. Let me go to huge domains and let me search for They've hid their advanced search. Okay, here we go. Ends with solution. Huge domains, ends with solution. They own 2,741 names that end with the word solution.com. I hope that gives you guys some indication of the magnitude of just how many names are owned by huge domains. And they're like this level that exists in the domain aftermarket that you have to be above them or below them. I think it's really tough to be at their same level. It looks like they've registered a huge number of two-letter combinations: FP solution, BY solution, LV solution, OD solution, FA solution, TZ solution, LI solution. And again, it's an algorithm, and they're getting these, and sometimes they're getting them at 12, and sometimes they're having to bid their proxy. But I know I'm talking two things here. I'm talking Midland and then shared solution. Maybe someone listening on this show has decided to take a run at shared solution. So it now has one bid. Oh, now it's got four bids at $30. That is not my intent, just so you know. I kind of don't like it. I'm not bidding on it. This could be natural bidders or it could be people listening. But anyway, that was on my watch list. Now that it is above my target, I'm going to take it off my watch list and get rid of it, so you won't hear me talk about it. Let's see. The other thing about names that have bids is that GoDaddy itself, on their tutorials, they recommend people to go to their auctions page, to click on the auctions list, to click on the column that says sort by auctions ending soon, and to choose names that way. So they get the benefit of everyone else's searching for names, everyone else having to bid with at least 5 minutes to go. Otherwise, if you bid with 3 minutes to go, it makes your bid 5 minutes, it extends the auction so that your bid is 5 minutes. And there used to be a benefit to not bidding, and that if you didn't bid 12, it would go to buy it now at 11. Now they've changed the system to where if you don't bid 12, the buy it now is at 50. So if you look at how they've done it, they've funneled people toward searching for auctions all day at any time of day by going to most active auctions. And they do only include, I believe, auctions with two bids. So they only include auctions that are at least $17. And I'm going to go check that right now, because I still believe that I can place one bid and not have it show up on this list of most active auctions. Now, that doesn't mean that someone can't do an advanced search of names ending in the next hour that have at least one bid. So I'm always subject to those people seeing my bid if I place it with 5 minutes to go. And I know I'm getting in the weeds here, but we've traveled a lot of ground together this year, and I think you guys can follow it. But if you are a beginner and you have a question about something I've covered, I do want to leave some room for those questions. But right now, if I go to extended auctions, the lowest bid that I'm seeing on the most active list is $15. So that makes sense. You can still bid 12, one bid, and not show up on most active. If I was doing this way of bidding, I would see the following names ending in the next minute. Newambassadors.com. It's got an estimated value of $1,800. It's at $112. Juicity, which I looked at, Juicity, so like a portmanteau of Juice City, Juicity. Got a really high estimated value of $2,700, and I think that's what's driving the price at $330. Now I'm looking at the most active ending in the next minute. Mysterioso. Mystery, Mysterioso. And I don't know if that's the exact spelling of mysterious in Spanish. Let's see. Misterioso. It says it's an English word, having a mysterious quality. Oh, there you go. A dictionary word. 220 bucks right now. This is so funny. I see a word like this, Hack Manchester. And I wonder, that's the name of my little city, and I know it's the name of a big UK town. But hackmanchester.com, it's got a $359 bid. I don't know. Must be SEO. I just ranked those up to you, David, that it must be an SEO name.
You can
Voya is
always
an
check by you
yeah,
can
no,
always check by going to Ahrefs.
yeah. VOIYA. So those of you in the US, you probably see Voya's commercials, VOYA. And VOIYA actually has a trademark on it. And I guess that's just name. So anyway, there's a lot of names ending every day at GoDaddy auctions, and I wanted to share just some of the process I go through. One of the reasons I also delete a name, like I was talking about Midlam earlier, MIDLAM, is that's still going at 365 bucks. And for me, because I really felt strongly I didn't want to bid on it, you might say, well, I'll just leave it on there so I can keep an eye on what it goes for. But for me, it's more likely to distract me from a name that I'm bidding on in the next 15 or 20 minutes. So I like deleting names that I know that they're gonna close, they're gonna sell, and I'm just gonna get them out of there. If the name hasn't got a bid, I may keep it on my watch list, because if it doesn't get a bid at $12, I do want to look at it each day. If it has a buy it now at 50, and a buy it now at 40, and a buy it now at 30, and then 11, and then 5. And in some ways, you say to yourself, well, if it goes 5 more days and no one wanted it as a closeout, why do I want it? But I still feel like by buying it at the 5 or the 11 or even the 30, I avoid having to wait till the drop to maybe buy the name then, where it may get further competition. There may be people that watch the drop that don't watch expired name auctions. If I just didn't want to make a decision on a $5 name, like there's a name ending in an hour that I just don't know if I want it. What I'll do is I'll copy the name and I'll add it to my watch list at Dynadot. And the reason I do that is Dynadot, you can add any name to their watch list and they'll notify you if it's upcoming to drop. So especially if I felt like the name wasn't going to show up in the searches that I do to find the drops each day, then at least I'm going to get a reminder email that says this name is dropping soon. And it'll remind me to put it on my list to keep an eye out for it. So those are some of the ways I use my watch list. Let's see. I'll just spend a second here, and then I want to let anyone who's got a clubhouse room this week share about it. Kind of open myself up for any ask me anything on domain name investing, or any comments on the GoDaddy auction review that we did today. Hope you guys are successful bidding in GoDaddy auctions. I don't know if I've maybe seen one other time when it was as competitive to buy names at GoDaddy auctions, meaning that I don't think you're ever stealing a name there unless it's in a micro niche that only you understand. Like if I was really good at medical names and I knew that there was an increasing medicine called virtue medicine. Now, just say that exists. Of course, it sounds like it exists, but say it really existed, like people were getting degrees in it or something, and you saw names regarding virtue medicine. Yes, I think you should still be able to get some of those names for $12 or 35 or something. Maybe Huge Domains doesn't see them. Maybe no other investors see them. But in general, I'm not buying as many names on GoDaddy because I feel like that inventory is going to be tougher to turn. I'm going to be tempted to try to sell for lower prices in the future to get some of the increased money that I've spent at GoDaddy auctions, which is the exact opposite from what I should be doing, which is holding those names near and dear. And before we go, and again, if you have a room you want to talk about, or if you have a question, pop up. If not, you can click replay to hear the whole this whole room again, which was mostly me talking. Mark had a great question early on about the Snap Names NameJet auctions this week, and I'll tell you what I've learned about playing those from being in similar auctions for the last 12 years. And then about halfway through, I started talking about GoDaddy auctions, my plan of the day, and some specific names. So you can hit replay and listen to the whole show today. I hope you would follow Domain Club. Um, so again, I'm just kind of stalling to give anyone else who has a room this week a chance to talk about it. And then I'll give you my tip of the day. So, Jeff, before I introduce you, I know you're here, so you always appreciate my tips. So I'll give you something I've been thinking about, and then Vahid, if you did have a question or wanted to say something, I want to get back to you. So here's something I'm thinking about lately. Would I rather invest a 1-year renewal, $9, in a new speculative name, or adding a year to a name that I'm already buying? Now, so for those of you with unlimited budgets, this doesn't matter because you'd say I'll do both. I mean, I got plenty of money. But if you were allocating a fixed amount of money, and I'm going to talk about this more next week, I'm starting to think that I would rather, whenever I buy a new name now, ask myself, is it worth buying 2 years renewal? And what that's going to mean is if I'm really committed to that name, I'm not going to be tempted next year based upon the market to maybe let the name drop because I'm deciding to cut my renewals in half that year or in a quarter, or I don't have the money. And so I'm starting to think about, would I rather have more time with the same amount of money on existing names that I have, or reach for new names? And I'll tell you next week how I came to my decision and what I decided. But anyway, Jeff, hold on one second. Vahid, did you have a question from earlier? How you doing, Vahid?
I just wanted to say thank you for all the information. I was listening and taking notes. I appreciated you spending the time on Monday morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Vahid. Appreciate you. And keep an eye out, Vahid, because I do want to put together, I've given RF one more week to see if I hear back from him. So if anyone here does, but if not, I want to put together a domain club, the domain show, domain social holiday Christmas party. Um, and and so I don't want to do something that Mike Seiger or Arf would do, because I think that Mike was the inventor of the domain social, and RF took it over and did such a great job last year. And if you remember, I had a charity auction that raised a huge amount of money for charity. But I do think it would be fun to get together and celebrate the year with everybody. So those thoughts are in my mind, and hopefully I'll hear back from RF. Hey Jeff, how you doing? What do you
What's
think,
up?
Jeff?
Hey, Paige,
Would
how
you
you
would you
doing?
rather spend $9 on a new name, or buying an extra year for a name you already own right now, just to know that you're going to own it longer and you don't have to pay for it?
I think I'll take the latter, like you said, the 2 years, and not worry about it for tomorrow if it's a 2-year, 3-year play. We was talking about this. I think if it wasn't last week, 2 weeks ago, about some of these domain names as it relates to the inheritage for our untimely death, and I was sharing my thoughts about maybe 50 to 100 names that I own that I'm thinking, contemplating, extending the time on those to maybe 3 years. Not to say that I'm about to die or anything. I mean, of course, I don't know when that may happen, but that's how I've been thinking about some of the gems in my portfolio that I don't want my family to be worrying about, and buy them time to be able to minister in a way that won't be such of a rush with those names dropping or things like that there. So with what you just said, yeah, I kind of like the 2-year play on maybe those good names page. I kind of maybe in your.
Well, cool. I'll have more about it next week. Now, Jeff, you do have a successful show. If I kind of feel like I do talk to investors and talk to the people that have been here and have been investing in domains for a while, but you've always had kind of a passion to reach a different audience, even though you get a good group of everybody. But how's your show on Thursday? And just remind everybody when that is.
Hey, thank you, Paige. Hey, my show on Thursday has been going good. Talking domains. It's been going good. We started the first week of May. It's been going great. We continue to take and grow our community. We continue to grow teaching our community here on Clubhouse, the domain community that you so love, as well as myself. And I'm quite sure David and Vahid would agree as well. Being here since January the 8th of this year, it's been a love for me to spend time in these domaining rooms, continue to learn, to be a better domaining. You're a great teacher, Paige. I come into your room to learn, and I always have my notepad ready, which I wrote some notes today. But it's the love that I have, Paige, of being able to help us being a better domainer, and that includes myself as well, because I have not reached any marks of excellencies just yet with selling domain names as you have and many others have. But I work daily, every day on, educating myself and being a better domainer. So talking domains, it's a Thursdays, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's a great time that we come together and talk these things that we love called domains. It's no set hours after it started at 4 o'clock. But from the very beginning, it used to go till 7 o'clock, and now it's extended all the way until 9 o'clock in the evening. So drop in, drop out, share your voice, share your teachings and your learnings of what you have had success in domainings, and help all of us become better domainers. Hey, thank you, Paige.
That's great. And David, thanks for sharing some of the work today on looking up in the corporate name sites. For some of these sites, it's good if you have a lot of companies that have a name, that you're bidding on. But sometimes you can get too close to the rail and legal issues come up. And I think you and Todd talk about those each week. If you want to just spend a second on how that room's going.
Very good. We had a really great audience last week. Actually, Zach Muskovich joined us along with another panelist from ADR Forum. And we had a really great discussion about a bunch of domain names. I'm going to publish a recap of that on YouTube probably this weekend. But join us tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern or 3 o'clock Pacific. And, there's always some gems that come up and, sometimes subtle, but like we don't have a replay on those rooms. But I'm going to try to do a recap going forward.
Yeah, I think that's great, David. And I would encourage those of you that, we are investors. And if you're buying 10 names and you think each one of them's worth 1,000 to 5,000, your company has a net worth of 50 to 100,000. And I think any company that is in that range or above, some of us, even if you think you only own 400 names or 600 names or 1,000 names, you really got $1 million of assets, potential value. And I think you should pay attention to the legal aspects. And especially if you've never wanted to ask, I'll speak for David and Todd. If there's a lot of questions that you never wanted to ask, but you would sure love to hear the answer to, that's what I get out of David and Todd's room is one of their guests, or they may say something in passing, and you're like, I always wondered that. And so that's the benefit I get out of the room, David. So thanks for sharing.
You're very welcome.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming in to Monday Domains. Good luck this week if you're bidding in the auctions on Snap Names and NameJet. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show. If you want to hit the replay when the show's over, I do think it's a buyer-friendly auction. That doesn't mean that you're going to get a great one-word domain name for nothing. You are going to still be up against the biggest and most sophisticated investors in our space. But at the same time, because of the timing, the large number of names in a short period of time, the fact that it is the end of the year and some people may have closed the books, some people may be crypto sensitive on investing money right now, They may have been distracted by crypto the whole year. There may be a chance for a name that you know you can especially develop or buy for resale, especially in the mid range, that I think it is a buyer's benefit. And keep an eye on Domain Club for news about a Christmas or holiday party. And thanks everybody for coming in to Monday Domains. I really do enjoy the show. I do enjoy doing it. I'm going to keep going and doing these shows for 2022. And I may have some news about the domain show next week too. So I can't decide if I'm building hype for it or procrastinating. But anyway, thanks everybody who comes in here on Mondays from Monday Domains.
Thanks, Paige.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody, I'm going to end the room. I'll see you out there in Clubhouse later today. In 5, in 4, in 2, in 1.